Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to draw techniques from one of your favorite books from my classroom library. This is great for ages 9 through 12, which is roughly the end of second grade through seventh grade, really. These Easy Techniques and Step-by-Step Drawings for Kids book was written and illustrated by Aaria Baid. Today we're just going to work through chapter 1, and we're going to do a bunch of different activities. So if you need to screenshot this so you can see some things, we'll get through this though. Part 1, Art School. All right. Basic principles of drawing. Let's get acquainted with these basic principles. A little bit of art theory is always good to know. Mass. When drawing anything, there's one very basic concept. Mass. Mass is a shapeless space of any size. Mass is the foundation of your drawing. For me in my classroom and when I'm creating art, I always think about mass as like giving something volume or weight. So a lot of what you're looking at right here in this picture, in this first part, is what the artist initially saw when they saw a vase full of flowers. These are the basic shapes, and there's just starting, before they get that mass in there, they're starting with shapes. So number 2, shapes. The next step is finding the shapes in the mass. At this point, the shapes are free-flowing and can be changed. So for me, I would probably start by drawing more details initially than this person did, but they're breaking it down to really simple shapes so that you can sculpt them a little bit more detailed each time when you're illustrating. Form. You can add lines to create form. Form is when you refine the basic shapes. And detail. Add more shapes and lines to create detail. Detail includes all the finer aspects, darkness, texture, etc. So I'm going to pull out my composition notebook, the one I got from school. If you watched a couple of the earlier tutorials, we did some value scale and things like that with a blue ink pen, and we made this craftsman page. I'm just going to set this off to the side and fold this over so that we can do this work together. All right, so step 1, they're looking at this picture. The artist is looking at this picture of flowers, and they see 3 circles. Can you find the 3 circles? Right, 1 flower, 2, 3. Now they have this larger shape that's kind of a rounded rectangle. The edges are rounded. If you notice, that's what the 3 circles are over top of. So if you see these 2 leaves, those are the edges, and then it comes down to the base of this vase right here. So when I'm drawing, I'll start with the stages that this artist has presented before us, but as we continue, I might do something a little bit different. All right, so first she has 3 circles, and they kind of overlap, right? So we've talked about layering in class before, where we have talked about, when you layer different colors with oil pastels, you're creating a new color. But when you're overlapping, like it looks like this top flower, the petals come over top. So overlapping is different from layering, right? Layering is when we put one color on top of another color. Overlapping is when 2 shapes, one shape is just slightly over another shape. It's not completely over it. It's not covering it completely, but just a little bit is overlapping. So I erased the wrong part of that circle. Let's try this again. Okay, I think there's a lot of erasing that goes on with this. Now it looks like in step 2, finish step 1. It looks like in step 2, these circles have turned into donuts, and there's these little teardrop shapes everywhere. There's a lot more details going on as well. Like there's more defined detail in this vase. That's interesting. I wonder where these donut holes came from. Can you find that? right? I think if Miss Shigalski, like our science teacher, was here, she'd probably tell you that this is called, ooh, a stamen, maybe? Or a piston. It looks like there's little tiny black bubbles inside of there. I'll just go ahead and draw that in now. Now we have one leaf coming from the top. Another one over here. One at the bottom, corner right here. And a fourth. Now, if you notice, my drawing is really light. It might even be a little bit difficult for you to see. Probably because I'm using my artist hand, right? We talk in class about your angry child hand. That hand that holds the paper down is heavy. This is your heavy hand. But when you're drawing, you don't choke up on the pencil, right? Treat your pencil like a paintbrush. Pull your hand back on the handle, and you want to be light. You want to draw lightly. So if you're drawing lightly, that means when you go to erase, the entire thing should disappear. That's how you know if you're drawing lightly. If it doesn't all the way disappear, it means you're pushing down too hard on the paper. And since we know there are 4 steps where we're refining each one of these images, we know that we're going to have to erase a lot of time. So if you already started and you're pushing down too hard, you need to try again, okay? That's okay, right? So I have 4 leaves, and now, oh, here's this vase is a weird shape. Let's start by drawing these 3 stems. One stem comes from the top, one comes from each of the flowers on the left and the right. Now my vase, it has the same rounded bottom, but it doesn't come all the way to the edge. So I'm just going to mark 2 little points where I know I can bring this in, and I'm just going to start making it up. Maybe around here, I'll draw a curved line, right? That's this line right here, and then draw 2 lines straight down. 1, 2. Now this is a nice straight line, so I can draw a nice straight line all the way up to the edge. And on the other side, there's another straight edge. Now this is a wavy line, right? It's almost like an S curve, like if you had the letter S and you just stretched it out. So we'll start like that. That's kind of good. I could always come back and try again and maybe make that a little better. Now these 3 stems have to go inside the vase, but notice that this curve goes behind those stems. So I need to pretend that I can see that, right? So the best way to do that would be to draw lines in between each one of these stems and have the curve over to the side. Now this is pointed and mine's rounded, so I need to change that. Right, just a little bit of a change. And I'm starting to draw heavier and heavier. You can see as the pencil gets darker and darker on the paper, but that's okay, right? Everybody makes mistakes. 1, 2. So this is like this is what? Like a C curve. We'd call that a curved line, right? Our C curve. And now I'm going to erase these lines off to the side because we don't need that anymore. They've kept those on here. They've kept every single line on here just so you can see what the next new detailed image looks like while you see what we've already done. But I want to make this a little bit my own too. All right, so now we've done everything from step 2. Now when we go to step 3, what's the difference between 2 and 3? Is there anything different with the vase? Look at the vase. I see a curved double line here and a curved double line at the bottom. Now, if you notice at the top here, there's a line because the handle, right, just like if you have a coffee mug, right, you can see part of the inside and you can see part of the outside of the handle. So they've drawn that with this little curved line right here that hooks, almost like a thumbnail, right? So I need to figure out how to do that. How did they do that? Oh my goodness. Okay. I'll just draw a curved line. Oh! And then I can just erase the line that's in the middle. That looks pretty good. Look at that. We figured it out. Now, all right, if we look at just the leaves, right? If you look at the difference between the leaves from 2 and 3, what do you notice? Yeah, there's like a little bit, there's this one line that kind of comes and splits it in half, right? It's splitting it. The line is being drawn right through the center of that leaf. Now, we've already darkened the centers of our little donut flowers, and if you look over here, these I think these are like daisies, or yeah, because their leaves are better than black-eyed Susans. But if you look in here, let's count inside of this circle how many petals we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 petals. Do they all have 6 petals? All right, so from the center, right, from the center of our flower, we're going to draw lines that extend outwards towards the edge of the circle. So these lines that come out, and count our petals as we go. I'm going to start on this bottom petal and go in a clockwise formation, right, to make sure I have 6. So here's 1 petal, 2 lines. Now it kind of touches, so I want to go 2 petals. And now there are 2 at the very top, right? 1, 2. And then there are 2 left. 1, 2. Now we don't need the rest of that circle, so I'm just going to go in between those petals that I made and erase those really quick, right? Just like that. And then you might have to do that little bit of detail, refine those edges of your flower. Now over here, let's try this one. 2 at the top, 1. Make sure they touch. Oops. 2. Might need a different pencil. This one's kind of dull. How many petals do I have so far? How many do I need? This petal needs to come over some. It's always okay to erase, right? Mistakes are okay. Go through and erase those edges of the circle. We don't need those anymore. Oh, and I erased a little bit of my stem, so I'll go back and make that in, fill that in a little bit. All right, so we need these petals. I'm starting to notice that the petal is smaller on the inside closest to the center than it is on the outside. Did you notice that? And erase. Now it looks like they've gone in and added even more details between step 3 and step 4. So let's start with the vase again. What do you notice that's different about the vase from 3 to 4? I don't really want to give my vase polka dots, but I do like this stripe right here. So I think I'm going to add a lot more stripes. Actually, I'm going to switch pencils. Maybe I'll have thick stripes and thin stripes. Maybe you'll have zigzag lines. Maybe you'll end up coloring yours and make it look like a rainbow. Kind of like when we made teacups in class. I had a lot of people who loved Detour, so they drew a lot of rainbows. I'm not going to color mine, so I'm just going to make sure that I use my pencil and add as many details as I can with my pencil. This pencil does not have a very good eraser. Diagonal lines coming from the edge. Now remember, if I go too fast, you can always pause the video. Because in class, I'm sure I'd have at least 3 kids going, "Wait! You're going too fast. I can't draw that fast. How did you do that?" Beauty of YouTube is you can always pause it and rewind, watch it again, try it again. Right? Alright, so there's our vase. Just like this vase right here. How'd we do? How did you do? Did you take your time? Did you do your best? Can you make it any better? And the most important question of all, do you like it? And if you don't like it, why? Is there anything you can do differently next time? Remember, don't be too hard on yourself. If this was really difficult, it's okay. How many times have you drawn it? Just one time. If I've probably drawn this 12 times. Now, if you draw the same thing 12 times, over and over and over again, I guarantee it will get better each time. That's called practice, right? When we practice something, we just naturally get better at it. We just get so much better. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the basic principles of drawing. How to Draw, Easy Techniques and Step-by-Step Drawings for Kids by Aaria, Baid. Next, in the next video, we're going to go over how to draw a house, basic shapes, adding different details, right, to make sure your house looks unique, and how to draw a really greasy, gooey pizza slice that looks delicious. For today, I'd like it if you could pause the video and draw these lines inside of your journal, inside of your sketchbook, and these shapes, because here's the artist's tip. Practice drawing shapes freehand. That means no tracing. Don't trace it. Just draw it with your hand. Practice drawing shapes freehand to increase confidence. Shapes are used to create the subject or object being drawn. They are made of curves and or lines. You can combine shapes to create complex structures and make up your own shapes as well. So next time, we're going to draw a house and we're going to draw a pizza. Bye!